Quick note before the video begins. This script for this video and the video recording was done before the release of Star-Crossed World. I have not played Star-Crossed World as of the uploading of this video, so please no Star-Crossed World spoilers here. Also, that content won't feature in the video at all. Also, spoiler warning for every single game in the Kirby series, pretty much. Enjoy! By far one of the most enigmatic topics in Kirby lore is the nature of the soul. For the past 20 years, Kirby fans have consistently been haunted by extremely powerful soul bosses who lurk at each game's grand finale. Each and every one of them is vastly different in origin, yet they each carry noteworthy similarities that easily catch the attention of a watchful fan. How and why are they so similar to each other? Is that similarity a good thing? And what is the soul in Kirby? That's what we're about to uncover today. We'll go over the history, lore, and gameplay design of these bosses to formulate the perfect overarching Kirby soul theory, and maybe even discover a brand new soul boss along the way. I absolutely love Kirby, and game analysis in general, so if that sounds interesting to you, I'd love it if you could like and subscribe. It really helps me out. With that out of the way, let's begin. This video was sponsored by Kirby getting killed while gambling at a casino. Thank you, Kirby, for showing us the dangers of gambling. Before we begin analyzing the similarities between all of the soul bosses, I think a more proper introduction is in order. And if a good, entertaining introduction is what we need, then I know just the man. Tenna, take it away! Mike, the lights, the camera thing, and action! Welcome, one and all, to Mr. Tenna's marvelous mystery board! Looks like we've got tons of fun in store for us today, folks. Thrilling battles, deep lore, fascinating revelations, and plenty of unforeseen surprises. The only thing more surprising than today's show is that you haven't subscribed yet. Haha, I don't even know what that means. And now don't touch that dial and don't touch those smiles because it's TV time! Mike, the Rogues Gallery, please. First up, hailing from Kirby Canvas Curse, the hate-filled blob of paint, the one who started it all, Drasha Soul! Next, hailing from Kirby Superstar Ultra, our first mainline soul boss and winner of last year's most obnoxious death scream, Mark's Soul! Moving down the line to Kirby's Return to Dreamland, we have the corpse of a dead traitor piloted by the sentient crown that he wears, Magalore Soul! Oof, I hate to be that guy. Continuing on, we have Kirby Triple Deluxe's Spider Bee Plant Hybrid, the unanimous vote for Prom Queen in 2014, Soul of Sectonia! Dreaming its way into our mechanical hearts, we have Kirby Planet Robot's resident miracle worker, Star Dream Soul OS. Hey, anyone know if it's taking requests? Shattering all expectations of Kirby lore, we have the Destroyer of Worlds, the roundest ball of them all, Void Termina, Void Soul, and Astral Birth Void! And finally, switching things up into the third dimension and representing the latest entry in the series with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, we have everyone's favorite and most persistent roadkill since December holiday? It's Soulwalker! Wait, what did he mean by this? Wow, what a lineup, folks! What power! What terror they impose! The only thing more horrifying is rating so low your show gets cancelled. Not that I would know anything about that, of course. And yet all of this is a casual Tuesday afternoon for our friend Kirby, isn't it? Apparently he's actually called the Pink Demon by his friends and enemies alike. Mike, remind me to never meet Kirby in a dark alley, at least without food. Ah, breaking news! It turns out that there's a new entry that was submitted last minute. Apparently the staff didn't allow it through because it didn't have soul in its name. How embarrassing! Apparently there was actually another entrant as well, but it wasn't as lucky as its compatriot. Well then, I guess we have time for one more introduction. After all, we've all been having so much fun, right? Right? Anyone? Mike? Our final entrant also hails from Kirby in the Forgotten Land. It's the most stubborn soul you ever meet, and the hardest foe of them all to beat. Chaos Elfilis! Hey, and after the show, Chaos Elfilis, have I got the jester for you. What's that, Mike? This is just Soulwalker again? Well, how was I supposed to know? Apparently the boss wanted them to be considered separately. I'm just a TV, I don't know everything. Well, hey, things kind of took a weird route there for a bit, but we are back on script. I hope you all enjoyed the introductions. I hope to see you next episode, and no matter what, no matter when, no matter how bad things get, remember to not touch that dial or that smile, because it's TV time! Have a wonderful night. Mike, the lights, please. The flowers. Thanks, Tenna. Glad to have you on for a bit. So, that's our Rogues Gallery. Quite the collection of, eclectic folks, isn't it? Besides the naming convention most of them share, all of these bosses have tons in common, both on a thematic and a design level. For now, I'll focus on the design. Physically, there's a lot of variety to be found here. We have Marx the Jester, Sectonia the Bee, Stardream the Mechanical Heart, and Soulwalker the weird fetus thingy. Magolor also has a unique design, but unfortunately for you, you fell for my Joker's trick. You see, Magolor's soul is a massive red herring. Magolor's soul is not, well, actually Magolor's soul at all. As Tenna briefly mentioned earlier, it is the crown that he wears, the Master Crown, that you're fighting. It's simply piloting Magolor's corpse. So while he is called Magolor's soul, I actually would make the argument that he is not a soul boss. Poor Return to Dreamland. I guess it just wasn't good enough to get a soul boss. But going back to physical design, look a little closer at each boss and you'll see a common thread. Drasha, Void Termina, and Chaos Elfilis are all spherical in their respective final forms, and even the others aren't free from this spherical nature, as Mark splits into two spheres during one of his attacks, and Sectonia becomes a big flaming sphere during hers, and Soulwalker, while we don't actually fight it, seems to be actively dissolving as it transforms. Perhaps it was going to become spherical as well? After all, its ultimate form, Chaos Elfilis, is also an orb. Though it's kind of like a soul boss of a soul boss, if that makes sense. Doesn't? Okay then, I'll go over it later. There are, of course, some outliers, namely Void Termina and Stardream. Stardream isn't exactly alive per se, so it goes to reason that it doesn't have the capacity to morph into a ball. Its mechanical covering does sort of writhe in many of its animations, so maybe that's its version of that. Again, I'll go over it later. Void Termina is the really fascinating one here. Not only is it the only boss who's naturally spherical, but it's also the only one who can use a soul attack without even being in its soul form. This leads us into the perfect transition to... I mentioned soul attacks a moment ago there. What did I mean by that? To give a very specific answer, they are attacks that many soul bosses share, scattered across each battle like calling cards. In layman's terms, they are what happens when everyone steals poor Drasha's homework. You heard that right. Drasha's homework. While it's true that Marx was the first main series soul boss, Drasha was canonically the first, and chronologically. Her impact on the series is extremely undervalued, so let's change that. It's time to analyze Drasha's Soul's moveset. Drasha Soul has 5 attacks in total. The first one is called Bound Pound, in which Drasha bounces multiple times in the background before slamming as close to Kirby as possible. The Soul of Sectonia, all 3 forms of Void Termina, in increasing levels of complexity, and Chaos Elfilis all do a variation of this attack. The second attack is called Splash Rush, where Drasha explodes into dozens of little paint pellets that rain down to the ground before she gathers them all back and reforms. Mark's Soul, Soul of Sectonia, and Chaos Elfilis all have their own version of this, with Marx's being more distinct as he splits into a blue and pink half, which then explode into little gobs of deadly rain. The third attack is called Paramatter, which has her summon some minions. This attack is only noteworthy because it is the only one that has never been stolen by another soul boss. She can keep one of her attacks, as a treat. The fourth and fifth attacks are the most fascinating to me. These attacks are used by every single soul boss in the series in one way or another. The fourth is called Deadly Sun. Now, I could explain in excruciating detail what Deadly Sun does, but there's actually a certain hip cat that I think could do even better.
I love you. Now you set my soul on fire. It is not just a little spark. It is a flame. A big roaring flame. I can feel it now. It is burning. 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 Say, something is burning around here.
While most bosses copy this attack verbatim, Mark's Soul and Stardream's Soul OS have the most unique variation of Deadly Sun called Deadly Ball and Deadly Heart, respectively, where they each split into a pink and blue half which travel across the screen separately, with Stardream's ending with an explosion. The fifth and final attack is called Shooter Cutter, the move that many people erroneously refer to as the Mark's Cutter, or Soul Cutter attack. Drasha rotates rapidly, sending crescent-shaped projectiles all around her. This attack should be extremely familiar to fans of the series, as it is used by every single soul boss in the series. Now, that's all of the moves stolen from Drasha, but the well-read Kirby fan in the audience is probably thinking, wait a minute, what about Black Hole? Indeed, 5 soul bosses, Marks. Magalore. Stardream. Void Termina. And Chaos Elfilis use Black Hole or a similar move.
And here we are.
However, you'll notice I didn't specify soul for most of those bosses, and that's for a very good reason. This doesn't seem to be a soul-specific technique. The base versions of all prior mentioned characters besides Chaos Elfilis can use a black hole move, and even Sphere Doomer's EX can use a miniature version of it. This move seems more specific to reality warpers rather than souls specifically. And as it so happens, many of our soul bosses are reality warpers. It's sort of a all toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads kind of deal. As you can see, not a single true soul boss is innocent of this thievery. All of them use at least one of these soul attacks. Of all the soul bosses, Chaos Elfilis steals the most moves from Drasha, with a whopping 4 out of 4 stealable moves, while Stardream only copies 2, and base Void Termina musters up 1. To summarize, both from an appearance standpoint and from a boss design standpoint, it's clear that every single soul boss in the series shares its DNA with each other, all cut from the same Drasha soul-shaped cloth. The question that arises then is why? Why do these bosses have so many similarities? The answers to this question are found in one man, Shinya Kumazaki. Shinya Kumazaki is the current director of the Kirby series, taking over for Masahiro Sakurai of Super Smash Bros. Fame after the release of Kirby Canvas Curse. Canvas Curse also happens to be the first time he was in charge of the final boss and ending of a Kirby game. In his interview from the Kirby 25th Anniversary Orchestra Concert, he states that he remembered being surprised by Kirby Adventure's twist villain, Nightmare, whose reveal showed that throughout the game, King Dedede didn't have any bad intentions at all. That was the moment he realized Kirby wasn't just for children, but people of all ages. Ever since then, as the new director of the series, he considers the climax of Kirby games to be very important, hoping to have enough depth as the game goes on that those engrossed in the story and world and lore will be satisfied. To anyone that has played any of the Kumazaki-directed Kirby games, this should make all the sense in the world. Every game from Superstar Ultra onward start off light, but end in dramatic and epic fashions, consistently bringing new lore and world building to the table. Kumazaki's strong sense of what Kirby is and should be pervades throughout all of his work. When asked about the Kirby series in general, he said, "I think the Kirby series has a part of freedom where anything goes, and an image of that Kirby that customers expect. We must take good care of what already exists, but we must also make something new." Later on, when discussing Kirby music, he says, "As with the songs, various elements that were nurtured in the former series that today's young users are not familiar with may also be introduced in a deeper part of the game, so long as they match the new gameplay and theme. I believe that the chemical reactions that occur when the new Kirby and the Kirby of the series thus far meet and get along with each other brings forth new experiences that lead to a deepening of the series as a whole." He also mentions that it's important to him that new players experience elements like characters or levels that they later discover appeared in previous games as well. He hopes that in nurturing this culture of revisiting the old while ushering in the new, past games will always remain relevant and people will become fans of the series as a whole, rather than just of one particular game. I'm sure you can tell where I'm going with this by now. I believe that the idea of the Soul Boss is the ultimate culmination of everything that Kumazaki desires to see in the series. As a recurring element, it always appears during the ultimate climax of any given game, the part that those deeply invested in will be completely blown away by. Its consistent appearance in every single game he's ever directed is a testament to just how important the Soul Bosses are to Kumazaki. But as he himself said, it's not just enough for there to be passing references to something. He wants the elements to be familiar enough that players will recognize them throughout the series as the series itself evolves and changes. And so, we come back to the soul attacks. Now, I'm fully willing and able to offer the Watsonian, or in-universe answer as to why all of the soul bosses behave so similar to each other. After all, the lore of Kirby is as intricate as it is well thought out, and I'll explain my interpretation of these similarities in the final section. But the Doylean, or real-world answer as for why the soul bosses share attacks with each other, is because Kumazaki wanted to make them distinct and recognizable from other bosses, as well as instantly familiar to anyone who's fought one before. The exception to this, as mentioned earlier, is Kirby's Return to Dreamland, as Magolor's soul intentionally doesn't have any of those moves, as a signifier that the entity you're fighting isn't actually Magolor's soul. Now that I've explained how and why these bosses are so similar, one has to ask, is this similarity a good thing? After all, some of the thievery is especially egregious, with Chaos Elfilis and Soul of Sectonia's second phases having more soul attacks than unique attacks. Despite this, in my humble opinion, I don't find these similarities to be egregious at all. In fact, I personally think they're awesome. These callbacks don't feel like Marvel level callbacks, like, ooh, remember this thing? This thing you like? You like that guy? The dude from The Thing? And you're all like, yes, Marvel, I do remember that thing I like, and that's kind of it. It's more like, holy cow, that attack is just like Mark's soul. So cool, what a great detail. It's a small nod towards an extensive past that the Kirby team never shies away from, a piece of connected tissue that, indeed, keeps the series past alive while forging ahead into territories unknown. I also think the fact that these soul bosses are typically so hard to encounter in the first place allows these references to breathe. After all, it's typically only the most hardcore of Kirby fans that play through everything the game has to offer. This means the perfect audience to understand these references are the most likely to encounter them. Another example of just how well designed the series is. Well, enough of me gushing about the entire series, because let's be real, I could do that all day. So far in this video, we've answered the first set of questions I posed earlier. Namely, how and why are these bosses so similar, and is that a good thing? The analysis section of the video is done, leaving us with the most fun and subjective part, the theorizing! I will attempt to synthesize all of the information we have on the soul and soul bosses in Kirby to hopefully create a cohesive picture of the soul. Who knows, we may even discover something new and exciting along the way! It's important, I believe, that we begin with Void Termina. After all, he is described as being the ancestor of all things. The Japanese flavor text of Astral Birth Void's second phase, when translated, reads as follows. When the matters of dream, dark, soul, and heart gather, and combine with chaos and infinite possibilities, the ancestor from the origin is born. It seems that he is the ultimate combinations of four kinds of matter, that being dream matter, dark matter, soul matter, and heart matter. As the ancestor of all things, I feel it's safe to assume that all creatures in the Kirby universe are made of some combination of all of these forms of matter. This actually isn't too surprising. We of course know all about dark matter, an evil creature from earlier in the series that Void Termina occasionally resembles. I believe that all members of that species except Gooey are composed of 100% dark matter, aka pure evil and malice, with absolutely no dream, heart, or soul matter to be found anywhere. This also explains why none of the dark matter related bosses have ever had a soul form. They literally don't have souls. As for Gooey, it's said he's made of the same stuff as dark matter, but his kind disposition makes me believe he has some heart matter within him as well. Dream matter and heart matter have less immediately obvious candidates, but I believe that we've seen entities entirely composed of these before. The Kirby series often relates dreams to miracles, especially important with the wish-granting machine Star Dream. I believe at the heart of both Star Dream and Galactic Novas in general is the power of dream matter, matter which can make the impossible possible. I also believe that Miracle Matter, an otherwise unexplained boss from Kirby 64, is made entirely of dream matter. It can use any power it pleases, just like Kirby, but the strange, many-eyed design makes me think it's probably a good thing that most other creatures have a little mixture of everything. Speaking of Kirby, I think Kirby is made of pure heart matter, the power of friendship and kindness, and dream matter with its unlimited potential, with a little soul in there as well. His selflessness and unfettered kindness make me think he has not an ounce of dark matter in him at all. It's no coincidence that people trust him so much, or that he's chosen by Friend Heart at the beginning of Star Allies while his friends get corrupted by Jamba Hearts. That just leaves us with soul matter and the soul itself, the most mysterious and enigmatic of all, and the point of this entire video. To learn more about the soul matter and the soul, we must look at the English version of Void Termina's fourth phase, which reads, "No one knows from whence he came, only that he has existed for aeons, unchanging and unrelenting. Perpetually roaming the cosmos, he has finally arrived. And now he has begun to feel, to desire, to think. Within the void, there lurks a soul." The way that this is phrased is fascinating, as it implies that even though Void Termina has soul matter within him, he actually only gained a soul when he began to feel, desire, and think. This fact is extremely important as we continue to piece together this soul puzzle, as these soul bosses, different in almost every way that matters, all share two things in common: mighty power and strong souls. This means that they think, they feel, and most importantly, they desire extremely powerfully. This is extremely obvious in how these characters behave. Drasha desires to turn the entire land into a painting. Marx and Sectonia desire to take over planet Popstar. Stardream shares its master's desires to achieve infinite prosperity. Void Termina, at its summoner's request, desires to destroy everything. And Fecto Elfilis wishes to invade and conquer all other planets. These strong desires are what caused them to come into contact with Kirby in the first place, and their stubborn refusal to give up their desires is why they suffer their ultimate fate in the stubby hands of Kirby. On a related note, have you ever wondered why you fight, for example, Mark's soul, but not Waddle Doo soul? The reason is simple. Not only is Waddle Doo not powerful enough to wield its soul,
Beam attack! Oh, I'm glad I missed. I'll get him next time. Beam attack! Maybe this one will hit him. Beam attack!
but it's simply not evil enough to do so. Since we've only seen villains with evil intentions on their hearts have a soul form, I believe that only an evil creature with sufficient power would, or could, ever have considered wielding its soul as a weapon. Even Kirby, as unbelievably powerful as he is, has never had a soul form. It's not because he can't, but because he simply won't. His desires to protect the world and those he cares about differs greatly from the intense, greedy, and evil desires of the Rogues Gallery. It is this intense desire, I believe, that makes the existence of soul bosses possible in the first place. They each will do anything to achieve their goal, be it to betray, to steal, or to murder. They cannot be swayed, or convinced, or even made to stop. They must be fought. And when they are defeated in such a way that they could never achieve all that they desire, they commit the ultimate act, their final act. With only one thing left to lose and everything to gain, they sacrifice the only thing they have left, their soul, which they wield as a weapon of battle. This act is irreversible and decisive. No going back. The soul is possibility. The soul is complete vulnerability. The soul is infinite potential. The soul is powerful. But this power comes at a cost. Those who choose to wield their souls as weapons become monsters, and lose all sense of who they are or what they were before. Drasha and Sectonia lose their senses of self, Marx his mind, Stardream its purpose, and Chaos Elfilis its sanity. For some, their soul more or less maintains their original form. For others, their form is heavily altered or lost completely, sometimes over time, and sometimes instantly. This is because I believe that the soul is inherently amorphous, more of a fluid than a solid. This explains the constant spherical motif between most of the bosses, as the soul tends towards that shape whenever possible. I also believe that since all souls are made of the same stuff at the end of the day, soul matter, that explains the consistent presence of soul attacks. Those attacks, those shared techniques, are just inherently how the raw, unfiltered soul expresses itself in the Kirby universe. Void Termina is the only outlier, as I believe that he is the exception to the rule. As mentioned earlier, Void Termina is composed of all states of matter, and though he has a demonic outer shell, his true self is just a spear, just his soul. Unlike the rest of the Rogues Gallery, I believe even in his story mode form, he is purely a soul, as evidenced by him using the soul attack Bound Pound. Void Termina isn't like the others. He never had a sense of self to lose. Beneath the outer shell, he is merely infinite potential. Moving back to Marx for a minute, the circumstances of his soul form coming about lead us to another fascinating observation. Because he's only able to enter his soul form after getting a wish for more power and later absorbing residual energy from the same wish-granting machine, the Galactic Nova, it appears that some soul bosses are naturally weaker than others, as evidenced by them only manifesting their soul with the help of external aid. The ones on the weaker side are Marx, Sectonia, and Stardream. Sectonia needs the power of 4 miracle fruits and the Dreamstalk to transform, while Stardream needs the entire Access Arc, which itself is a galactic nova, to allow its Soul OS to manifest soul-like powers. Whether or not it actually has a soul, I'll discuss in a moment. Those who can transform under their own power and are therefore inherently stronger are Drasha, a character I haven't mentioned yet, Void Termina, and Fecto Forgo, though how Chaos Elfilis came to be is its own section as well, don't worry. For those who can manifest their souls under their own power, it seems that the more powerful ones like Drasha and the other character can do so without any extra effort on their part, while the weaker ones like Fecto Forgo have to concentrate intensely to manifest their souls. Void Termina doesn't have to manifest anything. As mentioned earlier, it's already just a soul. So, those are all of my thoughts on the nature of the souls and soul bosses in Kirby. The TLDR is this: when near death, evil people with strong desires and sufficient power can wield their souls as a weapon, at the cost of everything they have left. However, there's still plenty more to talk about, so let's finally answer the question you've all been wondering this whole time. What the heck is up with Stardream, anyway? Right on the money, huh? It's like a mind reader or something. I'm just that good. Anyway, Stardream, and more specifically Stardream's Soul OS, is really weird. Like, really weird. The Soul OS activates after Stardream takes extreme damage from Galactonite. But what's weird is that unlike the other Soul bosses, the Soul OS is active throughout the entire battle, from Phase 1 all the way to Phase 5. This would imply that it's wielding its soul as a weapon throughout the entire battle, but there's nothing that actually indicates this at all. Like the other true arena final bosses, for the first 3 phases is just a souped up version of its main story fight with a few extra moves thrown in for a good measure. None of these moves are soul attacks, which makes it all the more confusing. To add more confusion on top of that, the Soul OS is described by the game as the final program, implying that this form is something that Stardream's inventors, the Ancients, programmed into Stardream from the get-go. This last part is fascinating. If the Ancients really did program in a soul form for Stardream, this implies that they not only understood the power of the soul, but also how to tap into it. What's even more fascinating is that after Stardream merges with the Access Arc, aka a galactic nova, and once Kirby manages to nearly defeat it, the heart at the center of the nova suddenly comes to life and manifests soul attacks, using a variant of Deadly Sun called Deadly Heart, as well as the iconic Shooter Cutter attack. In a great attention to detail, Stardream's deadly heart actually more closely resembles Marx's deadly ball than Josh's deadly sun, with Stardream splitting into blue and magenta half that fly across the screen separately. It isn't lost on me that Marx got nearly 100% of his power from a galactic nova, an object most likely filled to the brim with dream matter, like I mentioned earlier. The implication of this is that those who have significant amounts of dream matter with them manifest their souls differently than those who don't. Interesting, right? Looping back to Stardream itself for a moment, it's time to address the heart-shaped object in the room. Does Stardream actually have a soul? It's a bit of a convoluted topic, since Stardream does, at first, have a friend inside itself, President Max Prophet Haltman. Due to Stardream's control helmet being stolen from Haltman while he was using it, he and Stardream temporarily became one entity. However, according to the paused descriptions during the entire Soul OS fight, Stardream is actively purging Haltman's soul from the OS the whole time. In fact, by the time that we actually fight the heart in question, the paused description reads, "All of Haltman's memories have been deleted from the OS. Even his soul, the last trace of Haltman, has vanished. Stardream has gone from a near-perfect being to a cold, mindless machine." This is about as blatant as it gets. Haltman is completely and totally gone, and Stardream is soulless. So even though Stardream does manifest soul-like powers, I believe they are entirely artificial in nature, a replication of the ancients' understanding of the soul, at best. This would make it our first and only soul boss without a soul, which is pretty fascinating. Now, the whole deal with Stardream isn't the only question that's been festering. That's right, I'm sure you've been dying to know what I mean by Chaos Elfilis is kind of like the soul boss of a soul boss. Seriously, that doesn't even make any sense. Or does it? The circumstances that bring about Chaos Elfilis are as strange as they are interesting, and imply a great deal about how great the potential of the soul is when used properly. To give the shorter version, after Fecto Forgo spent the last who knows how many years using its incredible mental powers to possess Leon, the leader of the Beast Pack, Kirby comes into the picture and decides that enough is enough. Kirby downs the 7 ice-cold beers and drives a semi-truck at 100 miles per hour, completely annihilating Fecto Elfilis' deer-like body and saving the world in the process. Normal Tuesday for him, I'm sure. The thing is, though, Fecto Forgo, what it's called when not fused with Elfilin, survives this. As I said, its body is annihilated, but it's specifically stated that its soul alone survives, fleeing to a massive dream world that it itself created, most likely in advance during its time in the Eternal Capsule. This dream world is so powerful that it physically exists as a place Kirby can travel to, and even though Fecto Forgo's body is gone, its mental powers are so impressive that it keeps the dream world intact long enough to enact its plan. Without a physical body, it tries to hijack the local wildlife, poor Leon, man, to create a new host for itself. And in order to do so, it shatters Leon's soul throughout the dream world. Kirby ultimately restores Leon's soul to his body, but this still doesn't stop Fecto Forgo from mentally possessing him and forcing him to fight Kirby yet again. And then, even then, after Kirby manages to defeat Leon, Fecto Forgo's soul appears in a sort of phantom-like state, and seems to physically possess him, almost like it's taking manual control. It is even capable of appearing in phantom form and attacking Kirby itself, using 2 moves called Soul Crash and Soul Cannonball. Even while it's puppeting Leon. And then, finally, after you defeat Forgo Leon and free him from Fecto Forgo's possession, again, it's still not over. Fecto Forgo's body becomes more physical, less phantom-like. And after some intense concentration, its entire body becomes green, and its body begins to writhe and pulse, moving more like a liquid than a solid. It grows 6 tentacles and finally becomes Soulwalker, Psychic Beast. Is this not incredibly fascinating? Is this not fundamentally groundbreaking? Firstly, it's very clearly stated that Fecto-Forgo's body has been annihilated, yet it's still able to manifest in a physical form. This manifestation comes alongside extreme effort and concentration, yes. And the moment Fecto-Forgo becomes Soulwalker, that newfound physicality instantly begins to decay. This gives credence to my idea that the soul is inherently amorphous, as well as to the idea that, in a last-ditch effort to accomplish its desires, Fecto-Forgo has begun to use its own soul as a weapon. It's also important to point out its title, Psychic Beast. Normally, the word beast is used to describe the animals of the beast pack, like Leon, but for the first and only time, it's used to describe Fecto-Forgo. Why? Well, because it's already absorbed the souls of many members of the beast pack, which we see during the main story. Even though it remains in control, they are still part of Soulwalker, even if only partially. Secondly, the soul can just be shattered into tiny pieces. This is honestly insane, not only as a demonstration of Fecto-Forgo's unbelievable mental powers, but also as a lore revelation. While we've never seen it happen before, it seems that the soul can be shattered given the Shatterer has enough power. Perhaps the soul is not quite as durable as prior bosses made it seem? Thankfully for everyone's favorite adorkable lion, the soul can also be brought back together again if enough pieces are brought to the body. Thirdly, we haven't seen actual physical possession in Kirby since Dark Matter's last appearance in Kirby's Squeak Squad. Yes, I know it's a lame boss, but Dark Nebula is all but confirmed to be a member of the Dark Matter species. What's also fascinating is the requirement for this to happen. According to the figurine of Leon's soul fragments, Fecto-Forgo has to first cast out Leon's soul before it could use him as a vessel. It seems that one being cannot, under normal circumstances, have 2 powerful souls inside of them at once. But hold on a moment. If one being cannot have 2 souls inside of them at once, then how can Soulwalker have the souls of the Beast Pack inside of itself? The key word in my sentence before that was powerful. The souls of the Beast Pack, it seems, don't amount to very much. Back when Fecto-Forgo had a physical form, their bodies did drastically change how it appeared, but in its more phantom-like form, Fecto-Forgo doesn't look or act any differently than normal. Leon, however, is a different story. He is a being with a powerful soul, so it's fair to assume that he must have a lot of soul matter within himself, too much for Fecto-Forgo to fit comfortably, or at all. Even a creature with as much desire and mental fortitude as Fecto-Forgo cannot bypass this rule, it seems. This gives further credence, by the way, of 2 theories I've already proposed earlier in this video. Firstly, the Dark Matter family lacks a soul, which is why they are capable of physically possessing living beings. Secondly, Stardream itself cannot have a soul, as it already has Haltman's soul inside of it. There just ain't enough room in this body for the both of us, partner. Fourthly, Soulwalker just straight up introduced 2 more soul attacks. These ones very specifically called Soul Crash and Soul Cannonball. I'm actually not sure whether to consider these actual soul attacks, as the only time it uses them are when it's still Fecto-Forgo and not yet Soulwalker. Still, it's kind of crazy to see an actual attack called Soul something after all of this time. What's even crazier is that it doesn't stop there. You see, there is no Soulwalker fight, as right before the fight begins, both Kirby and Soulwalker get startled by the appearance of everyone's favorite butterfly. Important note. Soulwalker's body returns to its original reddish color the moment its concentration is broken, and the 6 tentacles it grew disappear, and it stops writhing. In the span of a few seconds, Soulwalker just reverts back into Fecto-Forgo. If the soul is being wielded as a weapon, as I've theorized, does this mean that it can be sheathed? Was its transformation even complete before the butterfly showed up? This is a fascinating notion, but what's even more fascinating is what happens next. The butterfly calmly and instantly absorbs Fectoforgle's soul into itself, as butterflies tend to do. This video is about a lot of things, but it is not a Morpho Knight video. The important part is that after Morpho Knight is defeated, Fectoforgo manages to survive and flee, stealing some of Morpho Knight's residual energy in the process. This finally transforms it into Chaos Elfilis, the species born of chaos. This creature's figurine says it all. A unique convergence of elements, from native beast souls to ethereal butterfly, gave a stubborn soul one last chance at revenge. This new creation, driven by pure chaos, was defeated by the bright light of Kirby's hope. As I said before, Chaos Elfilis is something new, something even more strange and powerful than any other soul boss we've seen before. All of its soul attacks are even named slightly differently, such as Shooter Cutter becoming Blazar Cutter, and Bound Pound becoming Impact Pound. These names indicate an upgrade, as if we are, for the first time in the series, seeing a soul's potential being pushed beyond its normal capabilities. It is an anomaly, a first for the series, yet how it came to be and what made it what it is teaches us so much about how the soul works and where its potential lies. To conclude, and to wrap everything up in a neat little bow, the soul in Kirby is the ultimate potential of a being, something that powerful beings with strong enough desires and a willingness to sacrifice everything to achieve them can wield as a weapon. This weapon comes in many forms, but it tends towards amorphousness and sphericality, and always expresses itself in a similar way, no matter the person using it. Using this weapon completely destroys whatever is left of the user, and at the benefit of becoming extremely powerful. This weapon can even be upgraded if it comes into contact with powerful enough energy. Some beings have to rely on other powers to manifest their souls, while others can manifest it under their own power, albeit sometimes with the caveat of a little intense concentration. And that's my theory on Kirby and the Soul. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and... Huh? Was that Mike? I forgot something? Let's see. And we know we're Star Dream, Chaos Elfilis, Soulforgo, and oh, you're right! I am forgetting something, aren't I? The final question that's been lingering in your mind since the beginning of the video. Who is this brand new soul boss I promised earlier? Who, you ask indignantly, could possibly have flown under the radar for all of these years? They say that actions speak louder than words, so I'll let the boss itself demonstrate. That's right. Against all odds and completely unbeknownst to the fanbase at large, the Grand Doomer, the demon from another dimension from Kirby's Return to Dreamland, is a soul boss, specifically when it enters its final phase. It has all of the hallmarks of a soul boss. It's spherical, it's powerful, it uses a soul attack, 2 in its EX form, and it only manifests when the Grand Doomer is almost dead. This reveal is a huge deal for lore enthusiasts like myself, because it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Grand Doomer is significantly more powerful than we might have first assumed. The Grand Doomer is also apparently greedy and evil enough to manifest its soul, even though it's not even the final boss of its own game. Its role as a fake-out final boss is noteworthy. It's very possible that the reason they gave it a soul form is because it's supposed to lull the player into thinking it's actually the last boss. Also, since Magolor doesn't actually get a proper soul fight, this still gives Return to Dreamland a soul boss representative. However, there's more than meets the eye here, because the Grand Doomer's soul form has a few differences from the other soul bosses. Firstly, while it does become spherical, its form is more like a hard shell than an amorphous blob. This hard shell is completely impervious to anything Kirby, Bandana Waddle Dee, Meta Knight, and King Dedede can throw at it. Only Kirby's Ultra Sword attack can even damage it, which says a lot considering how powerful those characters are. Secondly is the Shooter Cutter attack. Every single other soul boss uses it, but the Grand Doomer does not. Why is that? Thirdly, once the Grand Doomer shell is destroyed, it doesn't die, and instead floats around in its normal form, concentrating and gathering up all of its energy. After enough time has passed, there's this flash of energy and BAM! It's back into its soul form once again. This boss also confirms another one of my theories that I stated earlier, the theory that Magolor's soul isn't a soul boss. Just like Magolor was being puppeted by the Master Crown, Return to Dreamland Deluxe's Crowned Doomer is significantly more powerful, and it is the same character, but it does not have a soul phase. It does not manifest any soul-like traits when it's near death. Why is this soul boss so similar and yet so different from the rest? I think only 2 answers explain these anomalies. Either beings from another dimension manifest their souls differently, or there is more than one way that one can manifest their soul. I think the second answer is more interesting, so let's run with that. Say there is more than one way to manifest your soul. If the other bosses wield their souls as weapons, then perhaps the Grand Doomer is wielding its soul as a shield. This would explain the hard shell, why it only uses the soul attacks that involve ramming yourself into the opponent, why it survives using it, and why it can re-enter its soul form, assuming it isn't defeated in the meantime. It's very possible that this version of using your soul is less committal, less dangerous on the user, but also less powerful than wielding it as a weapon. The user's desires do not utterly consume them, but in return, they aren't gifted as much power. Look at the difference in intensity between the Grand Doomer EX's Deadly Sun and Sectonia's. It's very clearly much weaker, with far fewer flames and at a much slower speed. The Grand Doomer, whether because it's not powerful enough, lacks strong enough desires, or just doesn't want to, chooses to wield its soul like a shield, rather than a weapon. After all, when a weapon is broken, it is useless, but a deflected shield can be raised again given time. And so the Grand Doomer, revealing to us even more about the nature of the soul in Kirby, takes Magolor's place as a proud member of our Soul Boss Rogues Gallery. Congratulations, my old friend. Your patience has been rewarded. And speaking of patience, thank you so much for watching this video through to the end. I hope you learned something new and exciting about Kirby today, or at least began to see things from a different point of view. Just to add a little spice to the end of the video, on screen right now is my tier list of how powerful I think each soul boss is, given lore and context clues. I'd love to debate it in the comments, and please, if you watched this video and enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe, and comment if you have anything to add. More videos are on the way, and I know that you'll enjoy them. I'll catch you all in the next one. See you all. Love you. Bye. Shattering all expectations of Kirby lore, we have the Destroyer of Worlds, the roundest ball of them all, Kirby. No, Mike! Get that out of the video! Take it out! Tear down my kids! Tear down the set!